Welcome to the library. Our topic for today is the homeland of the original elves in Golarion, as well as the elves themselves. The elves are a race that has a long lifespan and tends to keep to themselves, seeing themselves as somewhat separated from the other mortal races. Given that their average lifespan can reach 600 years or more, it's understandable why they may find it difficult to form close connections with other races whose lifespans only last for 60 to 80 years. Many of the dates mentioned in this discussion about elves and their homeland may be speculative or estimated due to the Earthfall and the long passage of time between the creation of Kyonin and the present day. Nonetheless, I have made efforts to provide accurate information when it is available. According to the lore, the elves that exist on Golarion today originally came from another planet in the same solar system by the name of Castrovel. They arrived on Golarion via a magical artifact called the Sovereign Stone, and while it's unclear exactly when, it is believed that they appeared before Earthfall. However, some theories suggest that the elves migrated to Castrovel from Golarion. Regardless of their original origin, when the elves settled into what would become Kyonin, they began to create beautiful works of art that harmonized with the natural world around them. These creations have survived the test of time and can still be seen today in dozens of monuments, buildings, fountains, solar models, and sculptures that date all the way back to pre-Earthfall times. As the elves did not see the point in keeping track of time in any measurable way, establishing a precise timeline is very difficult. We do know that after they made contact with the humans of Aslant, the elves would go on to form the Winter Council to handle relations between the two societies. However, over time, the Winter Council would grow suspicious of the humans and began using their power and abilities to spy on them. Their suspicions, however, were justified when they discovered that the Aslants were secretly aided by the Algothu, who had recently become angered by their human puppets. With their formidable magic and this newfound knowledge, the elves who inhabited Golarion foresaw the impending meteor that would end the world. They persuaded the majority of their kind to flee back through the Sovereign Stone to Castrovel, leaving behind only a few stubborn factions who refused to leave. Some of these elves remained in the capital city of Kyonin, the city of Ayadara, and used their magic to conceal the city from mortal eyes while they withdrew from the borders of their once thriving land. It is unclear whether they did this out of loyalty to their home, or if they did it in disbelief in the seer's prediction. These elves would continue to live as the ancient elves did, maintaining their lifestyle, their beliefs, and their physical attributes. Other elves left Ayadara after the Earthfall to explore the aftermath of the disaster on the rest of the planet. With fewer elves left on Golarion, they began to intermingle with other races and settled within human communities, earning them the nickname Forlorn Elves. Although physically identical to the other elves, they harbor a more cynical outlook on life and a deep melancholy due to their frequent experiences of watching these shorter-lived races pass away. The final group of elves who refused to abandon Golarion believed that they should not flee from a disaster that was caused by humans. They retreated into the caves below Calflick Mountain, but the Earthfall shook the planet so severely that it awakened Rovagug, the Rough Beast, from his prison at the planet's core. Rovagug's vile magic mixed with the Darkland's radiation, its own magic, and influences, twisting the elves and their personalities. The elves' hairs turned white and their skin darkened to a coal gray, and they were forever transformed into the first drow of the Darklands. For nearly 8,000 years after the elves left Iadara, the sentinels who remained behind to protect the city helplessly watched as the other races began encroaching upon their territory, looting and occupying their former homes. Despite almost 10,000 years having passed since this, the elves have never forgiven this ancient offense against them. In the year 2497 AR, roughly 8,000 years after the elves left Golarion, a demon named Treerazor would be responsible for their return. Treerazor attempted to overthrow his master Sithvasug and was banished from the Abyss into the southern Feuds forest. He began to destroy everything in his path, sucking the very life from the plants, the water, and the earth beneath his clawed feet. He would discover the shrouded city of Iadara and learned about the powerful sovereign stone within. Treerazor would quickly hatch a plan to corrupt the artifact and use it to open a portal to the Abyss, where he would gather a new demonic army. The few remaining elves were unable to resist, and Treerazor would gain ultimate possession of the sovereign stone. The elves on Catstravel detected Treerazor's attempts to corrupt the stone, and they returned to Golarion with a vengeance in 2632 AR. They reinforced the defenses of Iadara and they pushed Treerazor back, leaving him entrenched in the Tanglebriar. With Treerazor contained, the elves prepared their defenses, expecting an attack from the savage humans they had left behind. However, to their surprise, humanity had matured greatly in the 8,000 years the elves had been gone. The elves decided to remain on Golarion and repopulate their ancient home. They continued to battle Treerazor and retake some old settlements while allowing the humans to continue living in others. Despite being surprised by humanity's growth, the elves remain cautious and prefer an isolationist society within the borders of Kyonin, where they can thrive without worrying about mingling with the other races. However, this may soon change as they adapt to a world that has evolved culturally and technologically beyond their expectations. Their long lifespan makes them struggle to adjust to the rapid changes in this new and very different world. Kyonin is a natural wonderland, with much of the land covered by the majestic Feuds forest, as well as sweeping plains and the northern coast of the Five Kings mountain range. The Five Kings Mountains form the southern border of Kyonin, while Lake Incarthen, one of Avastan's largest bodies of water, forms the west. The Glass River, West Selen River, and the Selen River complete the borders to the north and east, flowing all the way down to the inner sea. The Feuds forest has been present in southern Avastan since the Age of Legends, and while some sections of the woodlands have receded over time, the forest that remains is older than many across Golarion. It boasts tall, strong, and thick canopy trees that are older than entire kingdoms across Golarion. The forest is home to abundant wildlife and numerous fae, who live comfortably throughout the region. While the forest is thick with trees, large clearings and glens occasionally break up the tree lines, though settlements and communities within these areas are rare. Many elven villages and towns are built directly into the forest, blending seamlessly into the landscape by constructing buildings into burrows or trees depending on the terrain. This can allow elven settlements to be very difficult to find, especially when you pair that with the skilled illusion magic that elves use. However, foreigners are strictly forbidden from wandering through Kyonin, and this rule is strictly enforced by the Elven Guard, so finding an elven settlement by accident is rarely ever an issue. In the midst of a spiraling seven-armed clearing, a once grand tower now lies in ruins, made of columned crystals that sparkle in the sunlight. The tower's original height is estimated to have been twice its current size, as evidenced by the remains of an imposing blue gemstone spire that has long since crumbled. The shattered gemstones that once made up the spire now litter the clearing, as if scattered by an explosion. At the far end of each of the clearing's 7 arms stands a 10-foot tall obelisk made of amber, each encasing a single large bone. While normally dormant, on stormy nights these obelisks come alive, and they draw lightning from the sky, sending bolts of electricity crackling toward the fallen temple. The shards of gemstone crackle and dance with energy, while waves of blue fire roll across the stone before dissipating into the air. The temple's purpose with these vast amounts of energy remains a mystery, as the few remaining identifying marks on the columns offer little insight. Only faint symbols of men with large bird wings remain. Omista is a unique city in Kyonin. Originally an elven city, it was built onto by gnomes during the elves' long absence from Golarion. Rather than inhabiting the existing homes built into the trees, the gnomes constructed a second town of tree houses in the canopy above, using zip lines, winches, and baskets. When the elves returned, they found a fully fledged gnome community living happily and without trespassing in the trees above. The elves resumed living in the tree bases, and Omaston now serves as an experimental interracial community between elves and gnomes. The Tanglebriar, located to the south, is the only region in Kyonin that is not naturally beautiful. It is a dark and twisted swamp, and efforts have been made over the past 2 centuries to contain the taint that has spread from this area after Treerazor's retreat into its deep heart. The Tanglebriar is a dangerous area where creatures have been corrupted by centuries of demonic influence. The trees tower above, shrouding the area in darkness, while plants have grown twisted and thorny below. The land is covered with dense patches of nettles and prickle bushes, whose poisonous bite can be fatal. Additionally, the region is infested with a variety of venomous wildlife, as well as poisonous fungi and molds. In addition to the dangerous wildlife, the Tanglebriar is inhabited by a small tribe of orcs who fervently worship Treerazor. Despite their small numbers and the lower status of their deity, these tribes are known for their extreme violence and brutality, surpassing even that of your typical orc. One of the most formidable demons in the region is Morkravad, a Glabrazu known for his uncommon patience and subtlety when selecting his prey. He has been loyal to Treerazor for centuries and prefers to target high-ranking elven officers and generals instead of recklessly attacking platoons like his fellow demons. The Witch Bowl is a giant twisted thorn tree which Treerazor uses as both a fortress and a palace. As if its dark and twisted bark wasn't frightening enough, this gnarled tree is completely mobile, able to crawl across the forest floor on withered tree roots. The tree's mobility suggests that it may have a mysterious origin, with some speculating that it may have once been a corrupted treant. However, the treants of the Faeruni forest have remained silent on the matter, leading the elves to believe that they are ashamed of the corruption of one of their own. From time to time, the bark of the tree contorts into the shape of a gnarled face, although it's quick to disappear. Embedded within its branches are the impaled bodies of elves who have dared to directly challenge the Demon Lord himself. Aerobranch is a peculiar location situated between the Faeruni forest and the Tanglebriar. In the pre-Earthfall era, it served as the residence of a skilled elven wizard named Elthian. Despite the elves' abandonment of Golarion, Elthian remained and used his magical abilities to construct powerful protective wards. Surprisingly, these wards were successful, allowing Elthian to go on and discover the secrets to eternal life. Upon the elves' return, they beseeched Elthian for assistance, and he complied. He crafted a spell of immense power that would banish Treerazor and his minions forever. Although the spell was mostly effective and banished a large gathering of demons, something went wrong. Elthian and Aerobranch Manor vanished, leaving behind a grassy concave clearing with a single anthracite ball suspended in midair. This sphere exerts a constant gravitational pull toward its center, and a low whistling sound emanates from it, suggesting wind is rushing into it while nothing ever returning. The trees and vegetation surrounding the crater have all grown inwards toward this metallic sphere over the centuries, but those who have ventured inside to investigate have never returned. Prior to Earthfall, Shevarath was a bustling metropolis located within Kyonin. After the abandonment of Kyonin, the city lay dormant for thousands of years until Treerazor and his minions claimed it once more. Despite numerous attempts by the Elves to retake the city, they have never been successful in establishing a foothold. Currently, the former Temple of Calistria is the only building that is permanently occupied within the city. However, it has been defiled and transformed into a temple dedicated to Rovagug, the god of destruction. The minions of Treerazor use the Demon's Lord's presence to power their dark magic and pervert the sacred rites of the Savored Sting, creating countless cocoons and chrysalises that appear to be on the verge of hatching. Elves, with their tall and lean physiques, possess incredible speed and agility, as well as the ability to think quickly without acting impulsively. They are easily distinguishable by their striking beauty, stylish clothing, and pointed ears. Their large pupils with irises that favor blues, greens, gold, and violets allow for sharp vision in low light conditions, while their heightened attention to detail makes them experts in detecting hidden doors and panels. Elves prefer bright and airy homes during the day, but by night they rarely require additional light. When entertaining non-elves, they make sure to brighten the room to accommodate their guests' vision. Elf hearing is also exceptional, with their pointed ears naturally funneling sound into their ear canals better than a human. There are rumors that an elf's hearing is so fine they can tell a tree's type just from hearing its leaf fall to the forest floor. While capable of eating anything, elves typically favor a diet that consists of grains, fruits, nuts, fish, and wild game. They often prefer hunting for their food, as they find domesticated livestock to be less palatable. Elven cuisine is known for accenting the gamey taste of meat, which can sometimes make it seem as if it's on the verge of spoiling to those from other races who try it. Raw fruit and vegetables are often served, but with exotic spices and sauces that can bring out their tangy flavors. Elven breads are typically flat but highly nutritious, just as filling as Limbus bread from Lord of the Rings. Elves are not subject to the effects of aging like other races. However, their age can be seen in their faces, with ancient elves having an almost mystical quality to them, while younger ones have a youthful charm. While the exact lifespan of elves is unknown, it is widely believed to last for hundreds if not thousands of years. Some elves have even lived through the Earthfall, though these surviving elves are very rare. As a side note, it is worth mentioning that while the core rulebook says the maximum age for elves is at 750 years, the Elves of Golarion sourcebook says that they can live for thousands. This contradicts the rulebook, but I felt like it was worth addressing here, just so you know why I say that. Despite their longevity, elves are not immortal, and they can still perish from mortal wounds. Those who manage to live for centuries often move on to new worlds or dimensions before they die of old age. With such an extended lifespan, one might assume that all elves would go on to become master warriors, powerful wizards, or expert thieves. However, elves value things differently than the other humanoid races. When one has seen even the greatest of physical monuments crumble to dust over time, a statue in one's honor may not seem as significant. Despite the elves having been present on Golarion for a significant amount of time, their culture remains a mystery to the non-elves of the world. Many view them as aloof, isolationist, and uncaring, likely due to their exceptionally long lifespan. It's not that the elves lack compassion or empathy. When one's life spans hundreds of years, it can be challenging to relate to the comparatively short-lived humans. Elves have the luxury of time, which enables them to remain calm and collected even in the face of adversity, making them seem indifferent to those around. Because of their lengthy existence, elves don't feel the need to celebrate specific holidays or occasions. Instead, they try to appreciate each and every moment, seeing life as a continuous celebration, welcoming joys and challenges that flavor their immortal existence. Elves typically reside in the wild, and while they are highly cultured, they make an effort to live in harmony with the world around them. They use local plants for food, medicine, dye, and magical components, and their clothing is designed to blend seamlessly into their surroundings. Honor is an unwritten code in Elven society and holds immense significance. While rarely spoken of, it is an integral part of their daily lives. Elven honor is a bit different from the traditional concepts of honor held by the other races. Rather than focusing on things like battle, property rights, or morality, elves place great value on keeping their promises, fulfilling agreements, taking care of their loved ones, and seeking divine guidance. For elves, friendship is the foundation of their honor. They are very selective about who they call a friend, and it can take years of pleasant association before an elf considers someone a true friend. In fact, elves often consider their friends to be closer than family, even if their loved ones are spread across multiple worlds. To an elf, nothing is more dishonorable than wronging a friend, regardless of the reason. Elves cherish their freedom, so they would never dream of imposing their will on a friend by forcing someone to act based on a promise or favor. Instead, they offer advice and suggestions, always leaving the final decisions in the hands of the friend. Enforcing behavior on others is considered an insult among elves, and they would never cast enchantment spells or try to direct the actions of their friends if they can help it. Although elves are typically known for their calm and peaceful nature, they are not immune to conflicts like other races. However, they handle these conflicts in a unique way. When an elf feels insulted, they will initiate an Ildali, which translates to Nemesis. Rather than resorting to violence, the elf will seek to claim whatever their adversary desires the most while denying it to them. This creates a strange dynamic where the feuding party will spend time learning about each other's desires and dreams, getting to know each other on a very intimate level. To show that they've succeeded in claiming their foes' desires, they will often leave identifying symbols or marks as a calling card. For example, if an elf's nemesis desires the heart of a certain maiden, they may woo and marry her, living a life with her just to prevent their adversary from having her. Although these feuds can last up to a century, they often fizzle out over time as the desire for vengeance eventually fades. In some cases, these feuds can actually lead to lasting friendships. After spending so much time getting to know someone so intimately, it's hard not to create a sense of kinship. More often than not, elves will simply let the matter drop, seeing signs where there may or may not be. They may interpret signs in nature, such as a new growth on a decomposing stump or a particularly beautiful sunset, as a sign to end an Ildali. Elves have a natural inclination toward the ranger and wizard classes due to their attention to detail and connection to the natural world. Rangers comprise the majority of elven military forces and tend to solve problems from a distance in a detached and strictly elven manner. They are also skilled animal tamers, often training birds of prey and other forest animals for various tasks. Elven rangers can be found in scattered settlements, equally at home in the villages, towns, and even the treetops or within caves. Although rangers are the backbone of the elven military, wizards are highly respected, if not more so. In a society as long-lived as the elves, arcane magic represents the ultimate in study and concentration. The oldest elves are often wizards, and their opinions carry great weight. An elven wizard's words can command attention without even casting a spell, simply due to the experience and rigorous self-discipline required. However, their advice can also be cryptic, leaving younger elves unsure if they have even received it. Sorcery is not uncommon among elves, but is widely frowned upon. Magic operates on complex yet learnable rules, and the idea of someone not following these rules is akin to a woodcarver refusing to use the tools in front of them. An elf's long lifespan also contributes to this perception. A long-lived wizard may have thousands of spells in their library, while a sorcerer of the same age and power may only know a few dozen. Although some elves are born with an innate gift for magic, operating with only a few spells is seen as a poor choice when a more effective option is available. Young elves often embark on a quest for enlightenment, known as the Brightness, which usually takes place during childhood or young adulthood. This pursuit of enlightenment is one of the reasons why elves have a tendency to travel extensively, although some argue that such journeys are completely unnecessary and that true self-discovery can be achieved through introspection alone. The nature of this enlightenment varies from person to person, much like any form of self-discovery. The elf seeking it will recognize it when it comes, but the process is often personal and deeply transformative. Some elves are unable to put their discovery into words, while others may only be able to express it through simple aphorisms, such as "knowledge is peace" or "growth comes through change." When an elf discovers their brightness, their behavior can undergo a drastic transformation, which is a clear indicator of their newfound enlightenment. These elves become unwaveringly calm and composed, able to confront even the most terrifying situations with the same attention as they would a great book. While elves are far from perfect, imperfections become less important to those who have found their brightness. Honor becomes easier to maintain, and friendships become even more valuable. Elves possess exceptional crafting abilities, which is unsurprising given their capacity to dedicate decades or even centuries to a single craft as true masters. In fact, most elves have explored more crafts than some human artisans who focus solely on a single craft for their entire lives. They become proficient in multiple disciplines and forms of artistry throughout their lifetime, transitioning from one craft to another. Among their specialties, however, sword and armor crafting stand out, as they prefer to emphasize elegance and finesse rather than brute strength or solidity. Additionally, elves who prefer other crafts may delve into cartography, herbalism, tailoring, music, poetry, woodworking, perfumery, or cosmetics. Elves typically disdain mining or smelting. They do have a fondness for working with silver and crystals though, to the extent that they may trade with dwarves and humans for these raw materials. When living amongst other races, elven artisans often make a living using their crafting skills. Elven architecture exhibits a fusion of natural motifs and smooth, graceful curves that appear curiously alien to other races. While they can be found in various environments, ranging from cliffside dwellings in deserts to kelp-draped villages in the ocean depths, the majority of Kyonin elves reside within the Faerûni forest. Their structures entwine around the existing tree, as though they had sprouted into place alongside their wooden foundations. In the rare instance when elves decide to build a proper city, such as Ayadara, it becomes a brilliant and dazzling spectacle, crafted by master artisans one would expect from this race. The cities feature shining opalescent spires and meandering streets, designed to seemingly harmonize with the surrounding landscape in curious and almost unearthly ways. Among the elves, births are infrequent and hold such significance that an entire community celebrates the arrival of a new life. The festivities usually extend over weeks, with each member contributing blessings and gifts that aid in the child's care and growth. Oracles and diviners play a crucial role throughout the pregnancy, with their insights forming the child's name and providing guidance for their early years, lasting up to a century. Elves have 4 names that they associate with themselves: a personal or given name, a hidden or intimate name, usually known only to their close friends or family, an everyday name that is chosen by the elf, and finally, their family name. The concept of reincarnation is widely embraced by the majority of elves, who believe that upon death they will be reborn as animals in their next life. Eventually, they will return to their elven form in the following life. However, for those who fail to discover their brightness and cannot confess this to Pharasma, the cycle can become prolonged and involve reincarnation as monsters or other races before returning to their original form. When an elf passes away, their remains are treated according to their personal preference. For instance, if the departed had a fondness for the natural world and was skilled in crafting, they may be interred in an elaborate tomb or crypt. Alternatively, if they were a ranger or held a deep connection to the wilderness, they may be buried amongst the roots of ancient trees or have a sapling planted over their final resting place. The Elven language is renowned for its beautiful sound, resembling pure silver sliding across a harp string when spoken with the appropriate accent. Some claim that even most elves cannot speak Elvish correctly, but any humanoid with vocal cords can manage a passable attempt at this language. Elven writing uses an alphabet that is closest to Sylvan, and it shares a base with the Druidic language, though only Druids can confirm this claim naturally. Despite the similarities, the grammar of Druidic and Sylvan is distinct enough from Elven that scholars believe all 3 languages have different origins. However, both Druidic and Sylvan incorporate Elven vocabulary and structure of their sentences into their own languages. Elves hold a deep reverence for their gods, and pursuing their guidance is considered a noble pursuit. Despite their devotedness, elves tend to have an informal approach to worship and often perform simple daily rituals. Religious ceremonies usually take place at night, beneath the stars, where singing, dancing, and chanting are enjoyed by all in attendance. Occasionally, a storyteller may share a tale, but a formal speaker is uncommon and could easily be overshadowed by spontaneous singing unless they are truly captivating. While any deity can be honored by an individual elf, there are certain gods who are particularly favored by the race, and most elves shun malevolent or immoral gods. Calistria, the goddess of ideal elven beauty, is the favored deity of the elven races in Golarion. Her boldness and love for life resonate with the elven spirit, inspiring freedom and joy. Desna is beloved by wandering and melancholic elves, and she is widely worshipped in Kyonin. It is often said that elves pray to Calistria to get into trouble and to Desna to get them out. A smaller number of elves worship Nethys, with most devotees being magic users. The dual nature of Nethys is appealing to those who have a dual nature or must lead a double life as well. The worship of Fyndul Ladlara, Kedifis, and Yulrol still holds significance amongst the elves, even though their influence on Golarion is muted. These gods are actively worshipped by the elves. Fyndul Ladlara is known as the Guiding Hand and represents art and architecture. She is revered for her ability to protect existing traditions, but tends to ignore the younger races and refuses to answer the prayers of non-elves. She is typically depicted wearing beautiful, classically styled or archaic clothing, standing in an elaborate archway of mithril or living branches, and bathed in the glow of the sun just below the horizon. Her symbol is a hand pointing upward with a golden star or flame suspended above it. Cetaphis is the god of hunting and is mostly silent, except when coordinating with other beings on a hunt for dangerous or highly prized creatures. He is typically portrayed barefoot, wearing form-fitting clothing in browns and forest greens to minimize noise and prevent snags. He is often accompanied by his dog, Macho, and his hawk, Falling Star, but prefers to succeed or fail based on his own merit and not seek assistance from others. His symbol is a hawk on a silver crescent moon. Yulrul is known as the Wise and is a patron of wizards and druids. She prefers natural magic over that of metals or artificial construct. Jewelers who worship her use wood, ivory, or leather in their craft and refuse to cut their gemstones. In depiction, she is shown as an elven woman with wise eyes, simply garbed and surrounded by floating crystals resembling ion stones. She welcomes half-elves into her faiths, and her symbol is a trio of crystals overlapping a star shape. The elves and dwarves maintain a cordial relationship, akin to a good neighbor who makes a good boarder. One might assume that their long lifespans would naturally lead to a friendly rapport, but their cooperation stems largely from a mutual disinterest in each other's domains. Elves hold nature dear, and dwarves prefer to refine the earth's resources, resulting in minimal commercial conflicts and a harmonious existence as two forms of isolation. Additionally, the elves value the physical strength that dwarves possess, including their robust builds, magic resistance, and their eagerness to excavate in mines, all of which elves do not have or do not like. Elves typically find gnomes to be odd. Gnome magic is known to be unpredictable and peculiar, and the sudden and intense fixations of gnomes can leave even the most calm and collected elf feeling bewildered and perplexed. During the elves' retreat to Sovereign, a gnome enclave took up residence in Omastar, and shockingly treated the returning elves as if they were mere guests in their land. However, the gnomes' close ties to the First World makes them somewhat more tolerable to elves, and many elves come to appreciate the way these childlike creatures can surprise and enchant even the most jaded elf with a fresh idea or a witty remark. In Elven society, it's not uncommon for love to be shared between humans and elves, resulting in the birth of half-elves who are viewed as an inevitable outcome. Although elves have good intentions and claim to treat half-elves as their own, in reality they are often regarded with a mix of pity and distrust, much like the forlorn elves. In the community of Green Gold, half-elves have found their place and have filled a unique role. They are more relatable to full-blooded elves due to their longer lifespan, yet they are also more stable and dependable than their fleeting elven counterparts when it comes to interacting with human ambassadors. Prior to the Earthfall, elves paid little attention to halflings, and as a result, they rely solely on their current perceptions of them to guide their interactions. In the present day, elves have come to appreciate the valuable friendship that halflings offer, their unwavering dedication to their homes and hospitality, as well as their unique and unpredictable ways of life, very similar to the gnomes. In the past, elves regarded humans as an even greater enemy than the savage races like orcs, due to their perceptions of humans as a feeble imitation of civilization. Human aggression and greed were key factors in driving the elves away from Golarion, and it's likely that they anticipated a return of their ancient adversaries when they returned. However, much to their surprise, humans have evolved significantly in the 10,000 years since the elves left. While humans still have their moments of greed, for the most part, the elves acknowledge that we have admirably adapted to the cultures they left behind. Cultural evolution is evident, and the elves have come to appreciate these changes. I hope you enjoyed this look into Kyonin and the Elves of Kyonin. There will be a separate video that goes over the drow and the Mulajay elves of the Mwangi Expanse. I will say, this video is a long time coming. I've had this script in my drafts for probably about 6 months. Before we head out today, I want to take a moment and thank my Discord and Patreon supporters. Big thank you to Drake, Havoc, Taya, and I Share Our Comics for supporting me on Patreon, and Kaz for supporting me on YouTube. If you'd like to see your name added to this list in the future, you could check out the links in the description of this video for ways to support me.